When was the last time you truly felt okay? I don't mean the kind of, I'm okay, you say, just to keep moving. Not the version where you slap on a smile or try to convince yourself everything's fine. I mean the kind of okay that feels solid, deep in your bones, where nothing feels off and you're not second-guessing it. For a lot of us, that kind of peace feels rare. Maybe you've been carrying around this quiet, unspoken feeling that something's not right with you. Like deep down, you think you're broken in some way. Even if you can't explain what exactly is broken, you've done the work. You've tried the healing stuff, journaling, therapy, meditation, reading all the books, listening to the podcasts, practicing mindfulness, maybe even diving into spirituality. And still, there's this lingering feeling, something just doesn't feel quite right. And when that feeling doesn't go away, even after all the effort you've put in, it starts whispering louder. Maybe there really is something wrong with me. But what if that's not true? What if the real problem isn't that you're broken, but that you've spent so long believing you are? Let that sink in for a second. It's totally possible to live your life chasing healing, chasing peace, chasing wholeness, not because you're truly broken, but because somewhere along the way you got the idea that you had to be fixed. And this belief, it doesn't scream at you. It's quiet. It shows up in small ways. The way you talk to yourself, the kind of relationships you accept, the fears you avoid, the compliments you brush off. Every little action seems to say, I'm not good enough yet. You end up living like you're trying to fill a hole in your heart, a hole that might not even be real. That's why nothing ever feels like enough, because you're trying to repair something that was never really broken to begin with. Over time, you create an identity around this feeling. You carry it with you in your tone, in your posture, in your thoughts. And no matter how much work you do on yourself, peace still feels like it's just out of reach. You still feel a little off, like you're waiting for some moment, some achievement, some breakthrough to finally feel whole. But what if the breakthrough is this? Realizing that there's nothing wrong with you? Seriously, what if the real healing starts when you stop chasing the idea of being fixed and start letting go of the belief that something's missing? Because when you start seeing this clearly, everything begins to change. Here's the thing. The belief that you're broken isn't always loud. It doesn't always look dramatic. It hides in the background. It's there in the pause before you speak up, in the way you hold back when someone compliments you, and how you don't fully trust that something good will last. It's subtle, but it shapes your whole world. When you live like you're broken, you're always trying to catch up. You feel like you need to prove something, to earn love, respect, even your own rest. You carry this belief that says, when I finally fix this part of myself, then I'll feel better. But maybe that's exactly why you don't feel better, because deep down you've convinced yourself that peace, love, happiness, they're things you have to earn, things you'll get only after you fix yourself. That belief alone is exhausting. Not because life is always hard, but because you're constantly trying to manage a story that isn't true. You're trying to fix a version of yourself that was never broken, just misunderstood, maybe misled. Now, don't get me wrong. Pain is real. Struggles are real. But feeling pain is different from believing that pain is your identity. Feeling lost is different from thinking you are lost. Being hurt doesn't mean you're broken. You've been through things. You've experienced hurt, disappointment, confusion. And yeah, those things shape you, but they don't define you. At your core, beneath all the pressure, the pain, the expectations, you're still whole. You're still worthy, just as you are. So what do you do now? How do you start to shift away from this story you've been telling yourself for so long? How do you stop believing the quiet lie that something's wrong with you? First, understand that this belief didn't show up overnight, and it won't disappear overnight either. But it can fade, moment by moment, if you stop feeding it. Think of it like a plant. A belief grows because you keep giving it attention. You water it with self-doubt, with self-criticism, with old memories you replay in your head. You nourish it every time you talk down to yourself. But the moment you stop giving it energy, when you stop watering that belief, it slowly starts to shrink. Not with force, not with pressure, just with quiet awareness. Try this. Next time that thought shows up, the one that says, I'm not enough, don't argue with it. Just notice it. Recognize that it's there, and choose not to believe it. That's the beginning. It's not about forcing positivity. It's about being gentle with yourself, saying, today I'm not going to add fuel to this thought. I'll notice it, but I won't buy into it. And you'll start to see something shift. You begin to understand that you're not your thoughts. You're the awareness underneath those thoughts, and the one watching them come and go. And if you can watch them, you can choose which ones to follow and which ones to let pass like clouds in the sky. As you do this, again and again, that old identity starts to lose its power. Slowly, gently, you begin to return to yourself. You begin to realize how much of your energy was being drained by fighting ghosts, illusions that only ever existed in your mind. And for the first time, you stop trying to win against your thoughts and just let them float by. You don't need to defeat them, only to stop believing everything they say. And sure, it'll feel unfamiliar at first. When you've lived inside the story of being broken for so long, stepping outside of it feels strange, even scary, but it's also freeing, because that space, that uncertainty, is where your true self lives. It's where growth happens. Not the kind of growth that says, I need to become someone else, but the kind that says, I finally remember who I am. You remember how it felt to trust yourself, how it felt to breathe without pressure, to rest without guilt, to laugh without fear of how it might look. You remember what it's like to exist without constantly trying to fix yourself. And that's when everything starts to feel different. You stop chasing peace and start living it. You stop trying to fill a hole and realize there wasn't one. You stop performing and just start being. You begin to enjoy the small things again, the way sunlight feels on your skin, the way your breath slows down when you finally stop trying so hard. You smile for no reason. You feel comfort in silence instead of fear. You're not fixing anything anymore. You're simply making room for the real you to come through. That's what happens when you stop believing the lie. And the most beautiful part? The more you let go of the broken identity, the more your life starts to align naturally. Your relationships shift. Your choices change. You attract people who connect with your real self, not the version you used to pretend to be. You stop needing validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to be enough because you already are. That emotional heaviness starts to lift, not because everything's perfect now, but because you're no longer carrying the weight of a false story, and your energy returns, not in a wild, frantic way, but in steady, peaceful waves, because you're no longer drained by the need to be someone else. You're just being you, and that feels surprisingly light. Eventually, you realize something powerful. Peace isn't a prize at the end of your healing journey. It's been here all along, just buried under the noise. It was never far away. It was never locked behind some future version of yourself. It was right here, waiting in the quiet moments you've spent trying to be okay. So what if the real problem was never you? What if all this time, the pain you felt wasn't proof of your failure, but proof that your soul was trying to get your attention, that your heart was saying, hey, there's something truer inside you, come find it. And every time you told yourself, I'm not enough, you moved further away from your own voice. That voice that's been quietly waiting for you to listen. Not the version of you that's polished, healed, and perfect, but the raw, real, honest you, the one that laughs too loud sometimes, the one that cries at random moments, the one that feels too much, the one who's just trying. That version of you is enough. You don't need to fix her or him or them. You just need to stop fighting yourself. When you stop seeing yourself as a problem to solve, you actually start seeing yourself. Not as a project, but as a person, a living, breathing, feeling human being. You begin to understand your emotions. You don't shame yourself for being tired or anxious. You ask why. You stop forcing stillness and start finding clarity in it. You soften, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to be open. And the more you do this, the more you stop chasing worth and start living it. You speak more honestly. You move more slowly. You trust yourself more deeply. You show up as someone you respect, not because you're perfect, but because you're finally allowing yourself to be imperfect without judgment. This is what real freedom looks like. Not loud, not dramatic, but quiet, steady, and true. The kind of freedom that's been there all along, underneath the stories, the pressure, the need to be something else. And now you're ready to feel it. So let me ask you one last time. What if the problem was never you? What if all that struggle, all that searching, wasn't about fixing you, but about finally finding your way back to yourself? If any part of this connected with you, even just a little, stay close. You're not broken, just buried. Let's keep uncovering the real you together.